Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a very interesting show for you today, folks. I'll warn you, it is not for the politically faint at heart. It is also for you, those of you who are not squeamish. If you're not squeamish, you're going to love the show. If you're squeamish, you might want to tune in later in the program for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. It's an interesting story. It takes place in Arkansas. It's called The DUMOND Affair, a very interesting book. It's called How Lies and Politics Freed a Killer. So yes, if you're politically sensitive, maybe today's show isn't for you. We'll just put it that way. And I will put a disclaimer in here. I normally don't like to put a disclaimer in my shows because it's how it happened. This book is how it happened. But if you're of one particular political slant or another, you may or may not agree with what our author has to say today. We'll put it that way. The opinions of the author are the opinions of the author. However, I think history tends to show that she's right. So there you go. We'll put it that way. You can agree to disagree with me or not. And we'll continue from there. So there you go. Scene, we're on our way. My guest today is Dr. Bartlette. And the name of the book is The DUMOND Affair, How Lies and Politics Freed a Killer. It's an interesting story, folks. We're going to deal with a rapist that was set free, the woman that paid the price, and how it ties into local politics, including a crooked law enforcement officer, and how it ties into government in general, and how it also ties into how aspersions were cast on a lawmaker who eventually makes it to president. Yeah, we're going there. I don't know how to tell you that. Let me tell you about our author, and let's bring her in. Dr. Bartlette was that weird kid who hung out in the library and had her nose in a book at all times. She fell in love with words at a very early age. And when she was about 8, her Nana introduced her to a show called Quincy M.E., which sparked her fascination with forensic crime shows. The evolution into true crime was a natural progression for her morbid curiosity. She followed her passions for writing and earned a bachelor's degree, then a master's in journalism. As a freelancer, she's written dozens of articles and essays from topics ranging from school lunches to the study of human decomposition. The weirder, the better, she says. She's a regular writer on Medium.com. For a few years and often earning top writer status in both the history and true crime genres. She never tires of learning and writing about true crime, where she can explore the theme of justice, who gets it and who doesn't, and why. She lives in her hometown of Fayetteville, Arkansas, where she's also hosting a true crime show on YouTube called The Murder Nerd. We'll have a link for that in the description of this program, so you can check it out for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in for the first time here to True Crime Tuesday, Dr. Bartlette, or we'll call her Delaney from here on out. Delaney, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. We'll work our way slowly into this program. I want to get to know you a little bit first, and we've already talked a little bit about your upbringing, but tell me a little bit about your upbringing in Arkansas and what sparked this love for this genre of true crime. I know each of us gets a little piqued, our curiosity piqued as to what sparks the interest in the psychology. Me, I'm just a psychology nerd. I love what makes people tick, but what is it with you that gets you sparked in the true crime genre?
Well, I definitely am interested in the psychology aspect as well, but I tend to be more interested in the forensics. And like I said, you know, my Nana was kind of a murder mystery fan, and I was very close with her. And I remember as a kid watching that show, Quincy M.E., and in the beginning, you know, in the intro scene, there's a scene where Dr. Quincy, he's got a cadaver, you know, on a stretcher in front of him, and it's covered by a sheet, and there's a row of, I guess, rookie police officers. And he says, "Gentlemen, welcome to the world of forensic medicine." And he throws back the sheet from the cadaver, and like half of the rookie cops like fall out and just are, you know, they can't do it. And I remember being like 10 or something and being like, I want to do that. And yeah, I just kind of went from there. I went as far with forensic anthropology as I could. And just every time that I would come across something where the forensics were the key to solving the mystery, I was all over it. I really enjoyed that. So
yeah, it's a fascinating field, isn't it? It solving that mystery or trying to get down to solving that mystery is always the conundrum, and trying to figure out who done it, why they done it. And it seems like to me now. Tell me if this is true or not, Delaney. Do you always find it comes down just to a certain amount of factors and it's not that hard of a code to crack? Or to you, does it seem like it's a forever ending code to crack that seems like it's still a bit of a mystery?
Well, I mean, every case is different, obviously. And I feel like probably every mystery will be able to be solved. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of our technology, right? You know, back in the 80s, we didn't have DNA technology. So a lot of cases went unsolved. Then when we had DNA technology, we started being able to solve them much easier. And then now our more recent technological breakthrough with the genealogical DNA, we've just been seeing a raft of all these very old cold cases that are now being solved. Big important one being the Golden State Killer. So I have that kind of optimism that science will continue to have these breakthroughs and we'll get more and more tools and be able to solve more and more cases.
I'm interested to just kind of off topic for a second, what you think of the bankruptcy of 23andMe and what they do with that entire bank of genealogical material. I mean, you would think Ancestry would come along and buy it. But
I think they are.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of material sitting out there. And I would think a lot of people who might be scared that their material is sitting out there, wouldn't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a push to tell people, be sure and to tell them now that you don't consent and all this. But I kind of have the feeling that they've already been sharing this information, maybe in anonymized form. But I feel like it's probably already out there, so it doesn't matter. But I'm not on it, so it doesn't really affect me.
Yeah, I shared with Ancestry, but I thought about it a few times about joining 23andMe because there are some relatives that are on that site and not on Ancestry. But I never did. I don't know what kept me from doing it. The kits were always on sale and cheap, especially on Amazon Prime Day, but I never did.
Yeah. I was very interested in it for the sake of not so much as like Ancestry, but just like, the more DNA that they get, we can have this huge database and, it can help science. But I started learning more and more about, what they could potentially do, with people's DNA. And I just didn't feel like there were enough safeguards in place, to protect our data. And so I just ended up not taking part in that. And I'm glad that I took that time to sort of research a little bit more about it before I jumped headfirst into it.
Yeah. It's always, I don't think we do enough reading when it comes to, figuring out before we hand over information. I mean, we do it so blasé and just do it without thinking. These days, because we want to get what we want right now. We're very much a give it to me and give it to me right now society, that we don't think about the consequences when we do it. We just want, we're instant gratification. We need it right now, that we don't think about consequences. And that I think the Disney Plus thing is a perfect example of, my kid wants to watch, whatever they want to watch on Disney Plus. You don't read the terms and conditions and you sign off on a whole bunch of stuff that it just is ridiculous as far as what you're signing up for.
Oh yeah.
Disney Plus. Yeah. It's almost comical what you're signing up for at Disney Plus, to the point that SNL did a parody of what you're signing up for in Disney Plus. It's almost comical. So I want to get into the book here and this case, which is absolutely fascinating. You wouldn't think that a case that happens, which, by the way, how a rape case which has its own bizarre circumstances that we'll talk about here in a moment here, Delaney, would reverberate to national consequences, right?
Yeah.
That this case with Wayne Dumond would, and Ashley Stevens, who's a 17-year-old girl, would have these shockwaves that would continue to reverberate all the way up to the national level. I want to have you guide us a little bit and tell us, first of all, about just the case itself. Tell us a little bit about Ashley Stevens and about, unfortunately, what happens to her.
Okay. So Ashley Stevens, as you said, she was 17 years old. She was a cheerleader in Forest City, Arkansas, which is in the Delta region, near Mississippi, the Mississippi River. And she was from a pretty prominent family. Her father, Stevie Stevens, his real name was Walter Stevens, but he went by Stevie Stevens III. He owned a family mortuary business, which, if you know anything about them, those are always the businesses that are going to make money because people always need those kind of services. So, she was from a pretty prominent family, and her father was like distantly related to Bill Clinton and had donated to Bill Clinton's campaign fund. Now, remember, this is in the 80s. This is 1984. Bill Clinton is governor of Arkansas at this time. Mm-hmm. And they weren't particularly close. It was just a matter of like, well, I'm a Democrat. This is the guy who's running as a Democrat. I'm sending in my $500 donation, or, whatever the typical donation was at the time. It wasn't like he was, bankrolling Bill Clinton's political career or anything like that. They weren't even, I don't think they even knew each other. They were just distantly related. So anyway, 1984, Ashley Stevens comes home from school, and she, that day, Tuesday, was the only day of the week that she came home to an empty house. She said she came in, kicked off her shoes and was kind of, halfway starting to do homework or maybe watch some TV, typical teenage stuff, when she said suddenly this man walked into the living room holding a gun, and he had a bag in his hand. And he forced her into her car and made her like lay down in the seat so no one could see that she was in the car, and drove to a secluded area, pulled her out of the vehicle, sexually assaulted her, and was going to kill her, but she begged for her life, promised she wouldn't tell, really tried to play on his sympathies, said that her mom had cancer, and, just was doing anything she could. And it must have worked, because he allowed her to get dressed, get back in the car. He drove her back to her house, and then got in his vehicle, which was a red Ford pickup truck that had a busted headlight. And he drove off. She contacted law enforcement, and, right away, she was believed because, she was the daughter of a prominent businessman. She didn't run into the kinds of hostility that a lot of rape victims typically run into, but she was believed. She was able to tell them exactly where he had driven her, and she got a lot of flack for this later. But, she'd lived in Forest City her whole life. Like, if she's laying in the car, she can see up through the windshield or whatever. And she knew, he went down this street, then he turned there, and so she took them right to the spot. They could see where he'd spun the tires out. They found like the bag, some tape that he had taped her mouth with, and rope, and, it was all corroborating her story. They showed her some photo lineups, and she did see one guy that she said resembled her attacker, but she did not say that this was her attacker. She just said, this looks like him. So anyway, a few weeks go by, and she's driving around in town with a friend, and she sees that red pickup truck, and they're stopped at a light to make a left-hand turn, and that pickup truck drives past them. And she sees clearly the driver, and that was the man that had attacked her. So as the truck goes by, they write down the license plate number. They go back to the police, and the police are able to trace it to a fellow named Wayne Dumond.
Okay.
And, he was already a pretty rough character. I interviewed some people who knew him when he was in high school in DeWitt. And he had already, by that point, 1984, already on the record, had been accused by 3 different women of sexual assault. Well, 2 women of attempted sexual assault and 1 woman of he actually sexually assaulted her. But according to these people that I spoke to from DeWitt, he had done it before, like in high school and stuff, but the girls were so afraid to say anything that it never got reported. And that's really common. I'm sure, you've got a true crime loving audience. I probably don't have to tell them that for a lot of women and girls, it's just not worth it, especially when you know that probably nothing will happen to the guy. So anyway, besides the sexual assaults, he had also beaten someone to death in Oklahoma, in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, along with 2 other guys. And he was the first one to squeal to get the deal. And so in exchange for his testimony, all the charges against him were dropped. So he was already a murderer in addition to being a serial rapist.
Okay, so he's just a bad seed all the way around. And obviously, as you pointed out, Ashley knows, and especially at this time in the 80s, chances are, even if she points out, well, this is the guy, you're not going to get much as far as justice goes. They might go round him up. They might or might not charge him with a crime. It's just going to depend on how they feel or how the wind blows that day, and how badly they want to put him behind bars, and if they have anything that makes it stick. Now, what's interesting about the crime scene is that there's no DNA at this point. Let's face it, it's the 80s. But there's ways of collecting, what's a good way of putting this? There's ways of collecting evidence against him. And they have a little bit of evidence that he left behind, isn't there?
Yes, some biological material.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Thanks.
Scientifically, biological material.
Thank you.
But yeah, so they didn't have DNA, but they had, other serological tests. And so they were able to parse out a few factors. The very first, most obvious one was that there was no spermatozoa in the seminal fluid. So that immediately meant that this was a person who'd had a vasectomy, not just that they were infertile, because an infertile man would still have some, but just not enough to get the job done, I guess.
Yep.
But this was none. So this was a vasectomy. Secondarily, they could tell that he was a type A blood. He had type A blood, and that he had this characteristic that he secreted a particular enzyme in his bodily fluids. And that's a little bit above my pay grade to explain exactly, but my understanding in the simplest form is that there's a certain percentage of the population that in their bodily fluids, they secrete some particular enzyme. Mm-hmm. And so, Ashley had picked the guy out. She was like, that's the guy, that's the guy. And if you look at the pictures of him, he has very large, very striking blue eyes. And that was the thing that she kept coming back to, is that he has these crystal blue eyes. That's how she described it. And so while it wasn't the home run that DNA would be, the fact that he had all 3 of these categories, there was only like 1 in 60,000 people who had all 3 of these characteristics. And okay, that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about, if she's just going to pick some rando off the street who was innocent and just so happened to have all of these characteristics, that was really beyond a reasonable doubt there.
Yeah. And it sounds like, especially in that area of Arkansas, there's probably not that many people that fit that description. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. Forest City was not a really huge city.
Right. So I think what we'll do here, Delaney, is we're going to take our break because the story gets even stranger. We'll put it that way. So Ashley has pointed out that I know who this guy is now. I've seen him. I've seen him in his truck. We've got a license number. Things are about to get very strange for Wayne Dumond because now he's been identified, and Ashley can identify him. We're going to tell you what exactly Ashley does with that information, what exactly happens to Wayne Dumond, and how this all ties into Governor Bill Clinton and essentially President Bill Clinton, how this ties into Pizzagate, how this ties into the quote-unquote Clinton body count, and all the other conspiracy theories. Yes, we're going to talk conspiracy theories, folks, because on the other side of our true crime segment that you hear here on True Crime Tuesday, we are a paranormal show on the other side of it as well. So we might as well jump into some conspiracy theories today as well. My guest is Dr. Bartlette. We call her Delaney. The DUMOND Affair, How Lies and Politics Freed a Killer is the name of the book. And it is so incredibly interesting, folks, as to how things get spun out of control. You have to read this book because you'll be amazed. It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. You have to know where the origins of this stem from. And Dr. Bartlette does an amazing job of telling you where the origins of all this lie. And it lies with a crooked cop, and it lies with a lot of other things. And it all spirals out of control. We're going to tell you a little bit about how it all spirals out of control next, right here on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Dr. Bartlette. The name of the book, The DUMOND Affair, How Lies and Politics Freed a Killer. Now, when last we left you, Ashley Stevens had been raped by Wayne Dumond. She knows it's him because she's seen him out in his pickup truck. They've gotten his license plate number. Now, what is she going to do with that information? Now, Delaney, we've led up to this point, and we're about to introduce a cop who's got a very, let's just put it this way, checkered past. Tell us a little bit about this cop and this checkered past, how he comes into the picture, what's done with this information. And boy, take it from here because you have to tell the story. I cringe when I think of it.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Well, I believe you're talking about Sheriff Coolidge Conley. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't come into the picture until after this happens.
Okay.
So at the point of Ashley's rape, that was Forest City Police Department. Okay. She goes to the police. They, trace the registration. It's Wayne Dumond. They go and pick him up, question him. He claims he was just homesick all day. They bring Ashley in. She's like, yep, that's the guy. That's him right there. And so he's arrested. He posts bond. Well, actually, probably his wife, Dusty, posts bond. And he goes home. And then a few months later, while he's, home waiting to go to trial, two men come into his house. Now, he lives just outside Forest City. So he's in the county of St. Francis County. He's at home alone when two men come into his house, hogtie him, and castrate him. Oh. They leave him there, presumably to bleed out and bleed to death. But his two younger sons came home from school and found their father like this, just blood everywhere. The younger one runs to a neighbor, calls 911, and, he's rushed off, in an ambulance. And the lawman who is in charge of the county of St. Francis County is Sheriff Coolidge Conley. And he has been involved in gambling since the 60s. He came originally from Hot Springs. He would run these illegal gambling houses, and he would have marked cards and shaved dice and all this. And then he moved to Forest City and won a seat on the school board as a pro-segregation candidate. He then went on to serve on the city council in Forest City. And then he was elected as sheriff of St. Francis County. That's an elected position, like most sheriffs are. And he was just crooked as a dog's hind leg. Like he was running craps games in the sheriff's office. He was extorting people, like not just like criminals, but like if someone had been a victim of a crime, like say they had something stolen, and they go to the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, well, yeah, I have your stolen property, but there's a fine, there's a fee, there's a storage fee. So he was like extorting people. Him and his deputies would frequently beat prisoners who were in their custody. There had been this big bust, a marijuana bust, which, by the way, is still illegal in Arkansas.
Okay.
And they had arrested like a dozen different people, and the marijuana that they had confiscated had been in this county courthouse evidence locker. Well, another sheriff of a nearby county noticed that it's all gone. All of this marijuana is just gone. It was like pounds and pounds and pounds. And all of these dozens of people that had been busted with this ring, like only like 2 of them had actually ended up getting charged. And so, all of this stuff was sent to the Arkansas State Police because like, hey, something clearly fishy is going on here. But it was just stonewalled every step of the way because Coolidge Conley had the circuit judge in his pocket, had the prosecutor in his pocket, had the mayor in his pocket. Like he literally told people, I run this county. Wow. And he did.
And what's interesting is the 2 attackers who come after Wayne Dumond, they, let's just say, abscond with his testicles. Is that a good way of putting it?
The attackers did not, actually.
They didn't.
The attackers left his testicles there on the floor.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was when Coolidge Conley arrived at the crime scene.
Okay.
He spotted the testicles on the ground in amongst all the blood and scooped them up in a matchbox and took off.
Yeah. So Conley takes the testicles.
Yes, and Conley, it would later come out that Stevie Stevens, Ashley Stevens' father, had been at a dinner at that time, and somebody called him up and was like, hey, someone from the sheriff's office needs you. So he got a ride from one of his employees that was at the dinner to go meet with Sheriff Coolidge Conley at the funeral home, where he got a jar and some formaldehyde and preserved the testicles in a jar of formaldehyde. And for months afterwards, Coolidge Conley kept those testicles in his office and would show them off. Like he would, drag people in and be like, hey, let me show you something. And he would like pull them out and show them off. He would say, this is what happens when you rape a cheerleader in my county.
Now, what was it that the 2 attackers said? They said they basically tipped off Wayne Dumond as to who attacked him. They said,
well, they said Mr. C would be proud. And that cryptic line fed into the later conspiracy theory. So yeah, they said Mr. C would be proud. At the time, I don't think Wayne knew what that meant exactly. Mm-hmm. And it would later, like I said, factor into the conspiracy theories. But the sheriff, Coolidge Conley, didn't really do an investigation. He like half-heartedly questioned a couple people, like literally 2 people, and then just like closed the case after just a couple of days.
Yeah.
And he would, whenever questioned, he would say, oh, well, we just couldn't find any evidence. We think he did it to himself. Never mind the fact that he had been hogtied, which if you know what hogtying means, that means that your wrists are bound behind your back, your ankles are bound, and then your wrists and ankles are bound together. Mm-hmm. So you cannot do anything when you're hogtied. There was no weapon of any kind found at the scene. So if he had done this to himself and then tied himself up to, make it look like an attack, where was the knife? Where was anything? later on, it would come out, these two guys, a fellow named Larry Lewis, who went by Pork Chop, and another guy, they had been going around town, flashing a lot of cash. When asked, oh, where'd you get all this money? Oh, we got this money for cutting a guy's nuts off. And this reporter who features into the story quite a bit, Jack Hill, really dug into it. And it very much, from various witness statements and, information that he was able to dig up, it very much looked like Stevie Stevens had given Sheriff Conley a sum of money, and then Conley then took a smaller amount of that money and hired these two guys and supplied them with the gloves and the knife from Stevie Stevens' funeral home to commit the crime. And the reason that I say that is because when Wayne was giving his statement, he said that they were wearing these green gloves. They were like surgical gloves, but they weren't tight like surgical gloves.
Okay.
And that they had this like stainless steel or silver looking knife that had like a long blade, but he couldn't really say what kind of knife it was. And that tells me that's somebody who performs autopsies is going to have those big rubber gloves and, kind of larger knives and things like this. So, it was only through my digging. So Jack Hill has passed on, and he very generously, his family donated all of his papers and notes and things to the University of Arkansas Special Collections. And it was only through digging through boxes and boxes of these papers that I found all his notes and investigations that he had done that pointed to these two guys. Like up until that point, and there's still people, because obviously my book just came out recently, who still believe that, Wayne Dumond just did it to himself. But there's pretty strong evidence that that is not the case.
How do you do it yourself when you're hogtied? I mean, it just,
right.
That's an impossibility. You just can't.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So with that, Delaney, you say that Coolidge presents the testicles to Steve Stevens. Is there a report as to whether he was pleased or whether it was a shock or was this? Did he know he was going to get these all along? Was he in on it all along? Evidently, if he had gloves and a knife from the funeral home, evidently it was a conspiracy, right? He knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. So testimony, and this is from sworn testimony that was not given to the jurors, but was in the transcripts. How sometimes the judge will want to hear certain testimony or evidence or whatever without the jury present in order to make a ruling on, if it's to be admitted as evidence, blah, 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 whatever. So in this testimony, after Stevie Stevens came back to that dinner party that he had been at, that he'd gotten called away by Sheriff Coolidge Conley to come meet him. So why would Coolidge Conley have called him to come meet him at the funeral home if they didn't have something going on? He comes back to the dinner party, Stevie Stevens does, and is talking about this castration. It had not been reported in the news yet. Nobody knew about it except Wayne, his family, and the responding officers, and apparently Stevie Stevens. So, yeah.
So we've got the crux, the crux point where we have the misunderstanding of Mr. C. And where that could happen in Arkansas politics. Mr. C could be Coolidge Conley. It could be Governor Clinton, because obviously there's a relation there. Is this the beginning of the quote unquote Clinton body count? Because you do introduce earlier in the book Governor Clinton and Hillary Rodham. You give their background, and you talk about how there's a little bit of ill will between the people of Arkansas and Hillary Rodham, and the fact that she didn't take his name, and you build up that backstory a little bit, and how there had been some, even some indiscrepancies when Governor Clinton was governor, when it came to different women and whatnot. So you're very fair in your reporting. And
thank you. I tried.
And you show all sides. You show all sides of what was going on at the time with both Governor Clinton and with Hillary Rodham Clinton. And it's here where things start to be taken a little out of control. One of the first things you do with the book, and I'm gonna veer left here, and then we're gonna come back to the story. One of the first things you do in the book is you identify Pizzagate, and you throw Pizzagate in there. Tell me why, first of all, you started the book off with Pizzagate, and you threw Pizzagate out there. What was the idea with setting the book with Pizzagate?
Well, Pizzagate was actually kind of the inciting incident for why I wanted to write this book. So I'm a lifelong Arkansan, and I remember the Dumond affair and how it played out in our local state media. And I remember when it came out publicly what Mike Huckabee had done and how that tanked his political career and all that. But when Pizzagate happened, the Pizzagate shooting, I remember seeing all these people in the national media and even just regular people on like social media forums and whatnot, just absolutely gobsmacked. Like, how could somebody believe that Hillary Clinton is some kind of satanic pedophile, cannibal? Who believes this kind of crazy stuff? And I'm like kind of the kid sitting in the back of the classroom going, back here, over here, it was, this is where they got it. And so I just kind of felt like that the story of how these crazy conspiracy theories started and spread and had kind of become the mainstream among a lot of the Republican Party. I mean, certainly not all Republicans believe this, obviously. Right. I mean, I just, want to make that clear.
Yes.
But it is definitely a Republican Party misinformation and disinformation campaign that picked up the Wayne Dumond affair and added plenty of other stuff to it and all of this. And so for me, I wanted to start it there to show like this was when people started being like, wow, conspiracy, if you really believe in these kind of conspiracy theories, like there's people out there who really believe it and are just unstable enough to actually like maybe hurt someone. And I remember thinking 2 women died already in 2000 and 2001 because of these conspiracy theories. This is not the first time, and it's not a could have, it's a they already did and nothing was ever done to stop it. So that was my reason for wanting to kind of start with this, to be like, okay, everybody remembers this. Now let's go all the way back. And let me walk you through how it happened.
And that opening salvo really was eye-opening. The fact that one man's driven to go to this pizza shop to try and rescue what he believes are kids being held against their will. And for all intents and purposes, believes he's doing the right thing and goes to find this basement where he thinks he's going to find children in this pizza shop, and there's nothing. And and again, you're reporting it fairly when you're reporting it. I mean, you don't throw any hyperbole in there. You're reporting the story as it was reported. And unfortunately, this poor man was twisted around and got there and, armed to the teeth and was surprised when he found nothing.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately what happens when we fall down a rabbit hole and can't get back up.
I believe it was Voltaire that said, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities.
Yeah, very much so. So we get to this point now where with Wayne Dumond, you've got this Mr. C connection, and people don't know whether to believe it's Clinton or it's our buddy Coolidge. And now you've got, of course, I'll put it in all fairness here. I'm going to cast the fairness doctrine here, Delaney. And, you know, Governor Clinton's hands aren't necessarily clean on other stuff. But as he's ascending in the political ranks, he's, of course, testing the waters for the presidency. He's out there. He's campaigning. I'm going quite a bit further in the book here. And Lieutenant Governor Tucker is now is a whole nother story. But he's also not got his hands clean either. Give us a brief summary of Lieutenant Governor Tucker and what he's doing behind the scenes. Because he really, I would think he was a little dirtier than Governor Clinton, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, he was convicted on a couple of fraud charges. He was swept up in the Whitewater investigation, which was the longest lasting, most expensive special investigation in American history. Mm-hmm. And it actually led to a lot of reforms to that whole institution, because it did sort of become like police state type stuff. Like they were dragging anybody who knew the Clintons or had ever gone into business with the Clintons or had ever been in a room with Bill Clinton, basically leaning on them to try and get them to say something dirty about the Clintons. And, through this whole web of various other players, fraudsters, con artists, and, sleazy people. This fella named David Hale was basically trying to get the heat off of himself for his own fraud charges by saying, oh, no, I was doing this for the Clintons. And so because it was a lie, he had to keep elaborating and making all these extra steps and involving all these other people and blah, blah, blah. And all these other people got, kind of swept in. And Jim Guy Tucker, because he had been in business with Jim McDougal, and Jim McDougal had screwed him over as he had also screwed the Clintons over. But because Jim Guy Tucker had sort of, instead of just like reporting him and, throwing him in jail or whatever, he'd kind of tried to clean up the mess so that the people who had been ripped off by these mortgage scams wouldn't be ripped off. So anyway, he was accused and convicted of signing some fraudulent bank papers that he hadn't actually filled out or signed, but it was kind of one of those cases where, well, he's involved in all this, so he's got to be guilty of something, right? Mm-hmm. And so because in Arkansas, you can't serve as a governor if you've been convicted of felonies, he had to step down, and that's what elevated. Well, he was governor at that time. That's what elevated then Lieutenant Governor Mike Huckabee into the position of governor. So if that makes sense.
And that's how he ascends. And that's how Governor Mike Huckabee ascends into his position, which is an interesting read in itself. I want to leave that for the book because there's some interesting quotes there that you attribute to Governor Huckabee that I think people should read. I really find Governor Huckabee interesting as a character in himself. And his daughter Sarah, I find very interesting as well. I think the fact that there's two generations of political lawmakers there. But again, that's in that book. What I find interesting too about Whitewater is the fact that, despite the fact that Kenneth Starr is on this like a bulldog, I mean, he really was a very aggressive prosecutor and appointed a Republican prosecutor and very much far right, and really put the screws to everybody involved. He did clear the Clintons and said there was no wrongdoing. He said that the Clintons were out of the process early on, and that there was nothing there. There was nothing to prosecute them over. There was no reason to have them in the process. But yet years later, there's still these whispers of, well, whitewater, but there was nothing there. This brings us to our next point, and that's this. Was it shortly after Whitewater that the Vince Foster stuff came up, or was it before?
Vince Foster's suicide was the inciting incident to set off the Whitewater investigation.
Okay, that's what it was. So how does Vince Foster tie us back to the Wayne Dumond case, and how does it bring us to right here in this book?
It brings us through the Arkansas Project, which the Arkansas Project was hatched by 3 Republican media operatives that were associated with the American Spectator or directly with Richard Mellon Scaife, who was the major funder of the American Spectator. They were on a boat trip and basically decided that, because Vince Foster was so close with the Clintons, this must have been something, it couldn't have just been a regular suicide. It had to have been because he knew something. And so they launched the Arkansas Project, and, it would be funny if it wasn't tragic, but they got all of these characters. They were recruiting anyone in Arkansas who had any dirt on the Clintons. And, Arkansas, it's a southern state. We never let facts get in the way of a good story. And there were plenty of people who did not like the Clintons and were primed to believe any allegation, literally any allegation. So through this cast of Keystone Cops characters, they dug up or just straight up manufactured all kinds of allegations and, rumors, innuendos, et cetera, et cetera. And when they learned about the DuMOND affair, it had been circulating among sort of the religious fundamentalists both in Arkansas and kind of as part of the wider network, that they had gone from originally most people who thought that Wayne Dumond was innocent, they thought that because Coolidge Conley was so corrupt and inept that he just railroaded this poor innocent man. But then it kind of started mission drifting to where, oh no, it was actually Bill Clinton because that was his cousin. And they said Mr. C. No one ever called Clinton Mr. C.
Right.
Coolidge Conley was Mr. C. But, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. And so the Arkansas Project, of course, were very easily able to find this Wayne Dumond affair. And it became one of many of their sort of challenges of like, oh, look how uniquely criminal he is. Oh, he had this poor man mutilated and thrown in prison. And, he's just this poor innocent man who never did anything wrong. And it just got amplified and spread among various national right-leaning media. And so it became sort of this cause du jour that there were a bunch of people, both in Arkansas and in the wider nation, who, because they believed Clinton was so dirty and so corrupt, they believed that Wayne Dumond was an innocent man and that he needed to be released.
Was the Arkansas Project the same project that dug up Paula Jones? Was that the...
Yes.
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 Okay. Yeah. Which... I don't want to say Paula Jones was a nothing burger, but it ended up not going very, very far, right?
Yeah. The first time she was approached about it, she denied it. She was approached by reporters from Arkansas media. She denied it and, said that if they published that she would sue them for defamation or libel. The first time she tried to bring suit, which was literally the day before the statute of limitations would have run out, the judge basically threw it out for lack of evidence, which, okay, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Most sexual assaults and sexual harassments, you don't have a lot of evidence. So even, taking it fair-handedly to say, well, that doesn't mean anything. It just kept it kept going and going, and it was her case against him that went to the Supreme Court that then ruled that city presidents, yes, could be deposed for civil lawsuits. And it was in those depositions for the Paula Jones lawsuit that he did his best to lie but not lie, but he lied about getting oral sex from Monica Lewinsky. And
Right.
that lying under oath, I guess apparently in the 90s it was a crime, but it's not now. But anyway, that was what got him impeached. So, and he was being deposed for that while there was, I believe there was some kind of a crisis going on in Somalia. I think it was the Mogadishu issue. And instead of being able to, be right there in the room and, having his responsibility as commander in chief, he was having to sit for these, really, the kinds of questions they were asking were not relevant. They were just trying to get him to talk about intimate sex acts on television.
Right. He was testifying. I find it, you're right, that law has now gone and done 180. It's now, the president is now essentially immune from all.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? 30 years later, that it used to be the president was not immune from any of that. The president could be sued civilly. The president could be prosecuted. The president can't be prosecuted anymore. It's kind of a bit of an irony, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we have a different Supreme Court now than we did in the 90s. So
that's true. Very, very much true. So I find this story incredibly fascinating. I find what you put together here very fascinating, Delaney. And again, I want to leave some meat on the bone here, and I want to leave people to go and read about this, because it's again, the politics of your state are fascinating as well. The fact that, again, I don't care what side of the fence you fall on, whether you lean left or right, the ascension of Bill Clinton, and then the ascension thereof of what happened there with Jim Guy Tucker, and then Mike Huckabee, and how Mike Huckabee came up, I think is incredibly fascinating as well.
Yeah.
The differences between Governor Clinton and Governor Huckabee are so incredibly different. And then the way your state switched, I think are so incredibly different as well. I find just the dynamics of the state politics there fascinating. I find your book, again, incredibly interesting. The DUMOND Affair, How Lies in Politics Freed a Killer, is one of those studies, folks, that, again, you really, you have to read it to believe it. There's a lot of things that happen, a lot of machinations that happen within a state, county, city, when people are allowed to run free unchecked, that you just go, wow, I couldn't believe that could happen, especially in a modern society. It's very interesting.
Well, Arkansas has been punching above its weight for quite a while. We've sent one fellow to the White House and had 2 generations of people now associated with this White House. So
yeah, I mean, it's you've done some really, really interesting stuff, I tell you. Yeah, I mean, especially on the national scene, but locally there, I mean, you guys have made waves. And I really do commend you for writing a very, very fascinating book, Delaney. That's for sure. We got a link in the description of this program, so you can go pick it up. D.R. Bartlette is our guest. Delaney, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been my pleasure. Folks, we're going to lighten things up a little bit. It's time now for us to bring in Jessica Freeberg. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again, the time you've all been looking forward to. It's time for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And with that, I need a co-hostess. So, by the way, folks, we had to reach out and get a brand new countdown for her novels because the Hindustan Times has officially retired her as the Hindustan Times world's best-selling author. She even has a plaque coming to her, except for it's coming by yak. So it's going to take about 14 weeks to get there because yaks don't swim very well. I don't know if you know that or not, Jess, but they are horrible swimmers. So your plaque will be coming sometime soon if the yak doesn't drown. But ladies and gentlemen, she's intelligent, she's witty, she's funny, she's gorgeous, and she's here now with Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. She's got 3 books out there, by the way, that have now been retired on the Hindustan Times #1 bestsellers list. Here she is, Jessica Freeberg. Jess, how you doing?
I'm good. I've got to get myself a T-shirt that says Hindustan Times #1
bestseller
author.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I think again we have to add it to the list of T-shirts that's coming.
Add it to the list, Tim.
Right. T-shirt or hoodie? Which one would you rather prefer? We are coming up on summer, so probably T-shirt, right?
Oh yeah, probably a T-shirt. And I have this thing. I do like hoodies, but I have this weird anxiety with like claustrophobia. If my hoodie's not just right,
yeah,
I feel like I'm choking.
It has to have the more open neck. I'm that way too.
Yes.
So like the one I'm wearing right now, like the Nike hoodies have a more open neck to them. So
Yep, they do.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah. And I know I have a lot of really cute tops that are like, the high necked and they're like really cute. And I'm like, I can't wear them. Yeah. Every time I do, I have panic attacks.
So are you of a mind that in a past life you were choked?
I don't know what happened to me in past life. I feel like a lot of terrible things.
I think I was either choked. I think I was beheaded in a past life. I've talked about that before. Yeah. I think my head was taken off in a past life.
I'm convinced I was stabbed in a past life because I have an irrational, horrible fear of knives. Like if someone has a knife and they're holding it near me, and I feel like I can feel it going into my skin, in my stomach, always in my stomach. So I theorize I probably was murdered that way once.
Okay. Yeah, because I can't, nothing tight around the neck. Even when I wear a tie, my tie has to be looser.
You were probably like a thief or something and you were hanged and like,
I don't know, something, but I have a feeling the head came off at one time. So.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I was listening to something about beheadings and how they really tried to study to see if like the head was still alive back in the day after. So they would like tell the prisoner, give me a sign, if you're still alive. There was one guy in particular, they said, give me a sign if you're still alive, wink. So this was like back in the 1500s or something.
Yep. I can tell you
he didn't wink.
I can tell you from a vision I had in high school. Yes. The head was still alive.
Stays alive.
It's still alive for a short amount of time.
Yeah. Well, they did experiments and they did get some heads to like reanimate by using like electricity and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
I truly do believe it. I've told the story before on the show, but I truly do believe it was a past life vision, but it was a head laying on the sand and I could see the blood running from beneath the head on the sand, and I could see a couple of Arab gentlemen walking up towards me, and one with the large curved sword that had just taken off my head. And I know at that point it was, I was still, that was it, that I had been killed. But yeah, I know that, you're still alive after the head comes off. At least for a short time.
Well, I know chickens can still run around. I've seen it.
At least for a short time.
Yeah.
It's not a long time, but a short time. Yeah.
Well, this was a great way to start this show.
So good night, everybody. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow for the show.
Beheadings, the end.
Beheadings, the end. Well, it's not as bad as what we learned in the first part of our program, Jess, which I know you weren't here for the first part of our program, but a rapist lost his testicles in the first part of our program, so you know we're following script.
Well, that works. I mean, that seems like a fair punishment.
Not knowing what the story was, sure, yeah.
I don't know the story. I have been told men are afraid of me because I grew up on a farm and I helped my dad castrate pigs. So I know how to do that. Don't mess with me, boys.
You just turned a whole bunch of guys off with that, I tell you that.
Oh, yeah. Just pop them right out of there. It's pretty easy, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I won't get into it. It's too disgusting.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Playing out in my brain right now, and I'm laughing.
Oh my gosh, that's
an evil laugh.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, the smile on your face is a little too wide right now. You've got that Joker-like grin going on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm disturbed.
Everybody has secret skills.
Wow. That's a line.
Oh, man. Apparently mine is castration.
Wow. I'm glad there's distance and video between us right now. I think I'm just going to be honest with you. I think my penis crawled up inside my stomach cavity right now. I'm not going to lie.
All the guys just stopped listening. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. I think we have stories to get to. Just saying.
That's the not safe for work.
No, we're not even there yet.
Oh, no.
That was just fun. Is what that was. That was bonus content right there for you. Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't be. I mean, what happens on this show. It just does. On the big show today, what happens when you get in trouble with daddy's car in Florida? We'll talk about that. Louisiana man claims it's not a crime to throw food on his wife. I know what happens when you throw food on Jess. Evidently, you lose your nuts. That's what happens.
Especially not if I'm eating and I have a knife.
Right. Huh. A fraudster is found guilty after a funeral fiasco. We'll tell you about that. We'll tell you why a Florida man dressed as Ronald McDonald is arrested for trespass. It's quite the funny story. That's in our Not Safe for Work stuff today. By the way, we'll tell you what's unacceptable male behavior on a plane today. It goes a little far. That's in our Not Safe for Work category as well today. And the new trend, Jess, it's not the Mile High Club. It's the 6 Feet Under Club. We'll talk about that in our Not Safe for Work category today as well. So that's coming up today on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. But first, we go to Florida, where a 21-year-old drove his daddy's car into the ocean. The defendant was angry at his parents, supposedly. First of all, have your kids ever decided they wanted to drive your vehicle into the ocean?
No.
I mean, come on.
How do you even get it down to the ocean? Isn't it kind of blocked off in most places?
No. A lot of times, like in Florida, you can drive right up to the ocean. Yeah, but this kid right here has a bit of a dopey look on his face. Like maybe he took it a step too far and just drove.
He's like, my mom is going to kill me.
Oh my God. He has that look on his face. Like he just, a 21-year-old Floridian who was angry at his father drove the older man's vehicle into the ocean earlier this weekend. Investigators say that Joshua Kuss, Kuss, yes, it's an ironic nickname because that's probably what ironic last name, because that's probably what his father did most of the weekend when he found out his car was in the ocean, had borrowed his father's car but failed to return the vehicle to his parents' Jacksonville Beach residence. Around 2 a.m., cops received a report of an auto in the ocean, according to an arrest report. Upon arriving at the beach, officers spotted a gray Subaru floating in the water. Elsewhere in the report, the car is correctly identified as a 2011 Volvo XC70. Police soon located Kuss since his father had been pinging the location of his son's phone, which was probably floating on the water as well, doing one of these. Cuss copped to the ocean littering, which he called a stupid move. That's an understatement. And said that he had recently argued with his father and aunt. Cuss said he has sent his two relatives a 1 a.m. text warning that I'm going to drive the car into the Atlantic Ocean, police reported. However, Cuss advised that they did not take the threat seriously. So
Why would you?
I don't
Such a
think
weird thing.
I don't think I would either. I mean, I'll just say I have some erratic members of my family, and I don't think I would take any of them seriously if they said, I'm going to drive your car into the ocean. I'd go,
It sounds
sure.
so scary to me, though. Like, if the waves come up, wouldn't you be afraid you'd just be taken out into the ocean with the car?
Right.
I'd be so scared.
Well, think of, I forget the name of the mom killer who drove the car into the lake with her kids.
Susan Smith, right?
Susan Smith, thank you. And didn't she abandon the kids in the car and hopped out? Isn't that the deal?
Yeah.
I mean, car goes bye-bye, so does kids, right? You don't want to be in the car when the car goes in.
Man, I can't. Oh, to me, that's one of my worst fears is drowning in my car.
Right.
Ooh.
And we know here in Minnesota, you don't go out on frozen lakes when it gets to be too warm. Otherwise, car goes bye-bye, and so do you in the lake. The lake. That was very... How comes Minnesotan in me?
You sounded so northern.
I did, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
You go bye-bye in the lake. Whoa.
You're like a grumpy old man.
Down through the ice, So that's kind of what happened, right? So you would think, well, there's no way the kid's driving into the ocean.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, blow off some steam, kid.
Yeah. Just get it out of your system. And, we'll talk later, right? That's fine. Send me a text. Do whatever you got to do. Go drive around. Get it out of your system. Come on back home. We'll talk, right? I mean, yeah. While driving, oh gosh. Well, let's get to this part first. Cuss, investigators allege, sought to use a cinder block to send the car into the ocean. He got that part right, at least. When that failed, he got into the car and drove it into the water. He reportedly then turned on all the lights and made sure that no one was nearby before accelerating the vehicle into the ocean. So he wanted to do the job himself when evidently putting a block on the accelerator didn't work. While driving, he grinned and wished he could point his middle finger at his father and aunt, a cop reported. Cuss reportedly told one officer, hopefully they will listen to me now. After departing the beach, Cuss walked to his mother's nearby house. Cuss's parents reportedly divorced in 2023. After his father decided to press charges, Cuss was arrested on felony criminal mischief. Pardon me, I'm a little stunned at this. Was arrested on account of felony criminal mischief. John Cuss, who is 60 years old, reported a loss of $6,500 on the submerged wheels. By the way, that's all that car is worth. $6,500.
Yeah.
Cuss is being held in the county jail in lieu of a $2,500 bond. In January of 2022, Cuss pleaded no contest to a DUI charge and was sentenced to 12 months probation. Cuss, who was 18 at the time, was driving his father's Volvo when collared. In a letter to his son's sentencing judge, Cuss wrote that Joshua has a lot of work ahead of him, and I can only hope that he learns from his mistake, evidently he didn't, and turns it into a good life lesson. What's the life lesson here, Jess?
Don't be so stupid.
Evidently, there's an anger management course in his future.
I would think so, yes.
And the other lesson, I think, for Dad is we don't let the kid have the car anymore. I think that's...
Certainly not.
Yeah.
No more car keys for that kid.
I'm amazed that a car that is 14 years old is worth $6,500. That's what I'm amazed.
Yeah, well, it might be worth less now that the tariffs have kicked in on foreign vehicles. So
actually, I don't know. It may be worth more. I mean, the parts are probably worth more.
I guess the other way around.
Yeah, it would appreciate now.
I was like, oh my gosh, all of our cars are foreign and all the parts are going to be more expensive. Nothing can break.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I think now cars appreciate in value because they're more expensive. Everything's more expensive. So
that's right.
2011 Volvo XC70 worth $6,500. I'm in the wrong line of work. I need to start boosting cars.
Those are nice cars.
They are.
I'd take one. I would take one and not drive it in the ocean.
That's right. I'd take it and just drive away with it. That's what I'd do. Chop it up. Get yourself some cash.
Pull it for parts.
That's right. Pull it for parts. Well, another guy wanted a ride of a different kind, Jess. This guy thought that he was going to get a ride home from the cops. Wasn't going to happen.
No.
The headline here is, no, that car with the flashing lights and the cop inside will not be driving you home. Let me show you a picture of this guy. He looks just plain clueless. If you see him here, he looks like he probably has had a few. And
he does.
Yeah, he looks like he probably is not going to get us
a little
started.
Stunned.
He does look stunned. We're going to Georgia, where a Georgia man opened the rear door of a police car, climbed in, and told the cop at the wheel that he wanted a ride home. We don't normally do that. That's against etiquette, but it happened nonetheless. 31-year-old Andrew Davison on Friday night at around 10 p.m. allegedly entered the vehicle and shut the door while there was a human being, to wit, Officer K. Thomas, in the conveyance. The conveyance in question was stationed on a St. Petersburg, Florida street. So he was visiting from Georgia. Oh, so he
thought it was a taxi.
Yeah, he was being friendly. He was just saying hi to the police officer. So the conveyance in question was stationed on a St. Petersburg, Florida street, and the cruiser's emergency lights were flashing, cops say. The defendant stated that he wanted a ride home. According to a complaint charging Davison with trespassing in an occupied structure. Davison, I didn't know that was trespassing when you just walked into a police car and asked for a ride home.
Yeah, I guess. I never would have thought of it that way, but
I guess it is. Davison lives in Statesboro, which is a city about 55 miles from Savannah. Court records do not indicate what Davison was doing in St. Petersburg or where he was staying at the time that he wanted to go home. But Officer Kristen Thomas noted that the accused man showed an indication of alcohol influence. To that, I would say no duh.
He's like, all right, y'all, I gotta go. My Uber's here.
my Uber's here, and he has flashing lights on the top of his vehicle to let me know he's here. Now, see, I'm going to get crap for doing a Southern accent on the show.
Yeah, but he's from Georgia. Well, he's from Georgia, right? Or somewhere south. So that's appropriate.
That is appropriate. Yeah. Davison bonded out of jail on Saturday night after posting $500 bond on the misdemeanor charge. He has pleaded not guilty. How do you plead not guilty to that? You walked into a police car. You asked for a ride home. How are you not?
It's probably on camera because they've got cameras on them.
Yes, there's body cameras on the cops. How do you go, I didn't do it.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me. It was my twin brother. My twin brother, Alex Davison. What? I want to know how you think you're getting out of that. I don't get it.
You're not.
No. I think it's just the motions. You say not guilty, and then you find a lawyer who can come up with an excuse for you.
Yeah. Well, lawyers are good at that.
Oh. Your Honor, it wasn't my client. It was an alien.
It would be kind of fun to try to come up with excuses for people, for stupid crimes like that. I wouldn't want to have to do it for someone who killed people.
Right.
But, for a dumb crime like that, it would be kind of fun to come up with a logical explanation.
An alien walked into my client's body, Your Honor, and took it over. It wasn't him at all. Oh, horrible. All right. This next story is even worse, Jess. How far do you go? How far are the boundaries between where you stop and your spouse begins? What are your rights as far as boundaries go? Do you believe, Jess, when it comes to your husband, do you have the right to discipline your husband in certain ways? Or do you believe that you only have the right to talk things out?
Yeah, we don't discipline each other, so I don't really feel I have the right to discipline him.
There's no red room of pain at the Freeburg house.
No.
I know we're not safe for work territory. Probably should have qualified that. But okay, so there's no disciplining.
No.
All right.
He just does what I want, and
then
we
that's
just
it.
call it a day.
Okay, then we call it a day. Right? It's a one-way street. That's what you're saying. Well, this Louisiana man claims it was not a crime to throw food on his wife. How far does the mister get if he throws food on you? And it's not acceptable.
Not very far.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
Farm girl comes out.
Oh, I see. Whoa. I see. Facing arrest for pelting his spouse with his lunch and a metal spoon. I don't think that would go down with you, Jess.
Ooh, that's not nice.
No. A Louisiana man offered police a novel legal take, claiming that it was not a crime to throw food on his wife. That according to an arrest report. It's called assault. And I'm not talking about salt out of this is a salt and here's a pepper and I'm throwing them both at her. I'm not talking about that kind of assault. It is assault, folks. Do you know when you just open up a water bottle and splash water on somebody, that's assault?
Wow.
You didn't know that?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It sounds extreme, but it does make sense.
It is. It's assault. Look it up. It's assault in all 50 states.
Yeah. So all those ladies on the Real Housewives shows who throw a glass of wine in someone's face.
It's assault.
Assault.
Mm-hmm. Investigators allege that a recent verbal argument between 58-year-old Willie Cook and his wife of 34 years turned violent when Cook began throwing food at her. Cook also allegedly threw a metal spoon, which hit the victim in the head. Oh, this isn't going to go well. No.
Nope. You better run, boy. You better run.
I hope she doesn't know how to hog tie you and take your testicles out. I'll tell you that much. By the way, the rapist was hog tied and then had his testicles removed.
Oh my gosh, for real?
Yeah.
Are we talking about that one later?
Well, it was talked about in the first segment of the show, but
yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to listen to that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's wrong. You shouldn't do that, but I'm fascinated.
Yeah. When cops arrived at the couple's Monroe home, they observed food on the master bed where the victim stated the incident took place. Additionally, a cop detected a small lump on the back of the victim's head. After being read his rights, Cook declared that it was not unlawful to shower one's spouse with food items. That analysis was rejected by police, and Cook was arrested for domestic abuse battery, as he should be. Cook spent 2 days in custody before posting $500 bond on the misdemeanor charge. Yeah, guys, little tip for you. Don't do that.
Don't shower your wives with food.
Shower them with love. Shower them with appreciation. Yeah. Shower them with
diamonds,
flowers.
Jewelry of any sort.
Yeah. Well, don't throw them don't throw the diamonds at them. That hurts.
Shower me gently with them.
Gently. But not, not with food. Or if you shower them with food, a DoorDash delivery. Yes, that's that type of showering, but not literally throwing it at them. That's bad. We're going to continue with the food stories, though, Jess. We're going to head back to Florida. A Florida robber is jailed after stealing $1.50 from the Dairy Queen at gunpoint.
Whoa. It's pretty aggressive for $1.50.
In this case, just the tip, ma'am. Just the tip. A Florida woman is facing felony charges after allegedly robbing a Dairy Queen at gunpoint for just $1.50. The incident took place in Coconut Creek, where 44-year-old Allison Fetting reportedly pulled out a black handgun and demanded money from the cashier. However, instead of taking cash from the register, she grabbed a tip jar, again, just the tip, containing $1.50 and fled the scene. $1.50.
Wow.
That, according to the Coconut Creek Police Department, not Creep, but Coconut Creek Police Department. They announced that on their Instagram. No one was hurt during the robbery, and they shouldn't be for $1.50. I mean, let's face it.
No, how disappointed do you think she was when she got wherever she was going, opened it up, and was like, $1.50? Seriously,
$1.50. Fetting was taken into custody the next day on a second-degree petty theft charge. The department did not provide details about the incident in court documents. And why would they? It's not even worth the writing it on paper. I mean, at that point, it's $1.50.
No, but like doing it with a gun, she should get something for that.
True.
That's scary.
Although the robbery occurred last year, Fetting was not booked into jail until Friday. She had previously been sentenced to prison for another robbery in 2003 in Osceola County. Fetting has also been accused of similar crimes in Coconut County. Oh boy. I'm going to show you a picture here, Jess. She looks like she might have had a bit of a rough life. We'll put it that way. Fetting is currently held at the Paul Rain Detention Facility, and her arraignment is scheduled for Wednesday. As of now, no attorney is listed for her in court records, probably because they're all too scared to approach her. This is our person in question.
Oh, yeah, she looks like she could take you out.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she? And not for Dairy Queen for $1.50.
No,
they do have the 90.
She looks so mad too.
Yeah, they do have the 99-cent cones on occasion. She probably could buy me one with that tip she stole. But yeah, she's looking pretty rough. Life is rough at the Paul Rain Detention Center. Just saying, it's not a bed of roses.
No, definitely not.
Although I bet she does get showered with food every once in a while. Just saying. probably takes it in the maw every once in a while.
Oh man.
In a different way.
Detention center food too.
Yes, detention center food. It's not the good kind. Detention center food. All right. Speaking of taking it in the maw. All right. I have an unusual story here. Now, keep in mind, this is coming from the perspective of a fat boy. I'm laughing at this story. Again, we're back in Florida. Irony of all ironies. A Florida death row inmate says his morbid obesity would complicate lethal injection and wants leniency. In other words, he's too fat to die. Come on, that's funny. I don't care who you are.
Funny.
That's pretty funny. Lawyers for Michael Tansey, who was convicted of killing Jane Acosta in 2000, argued that lethal injection would constitute cruel and unusual punishment due to his weight. Come on.
How is it different?
I'm about to tell you. Now, here's the thing, Jess. I'm going to hold this up side by side. Does he look any fatter than me? I mean, come on.
He doesn't look that large. No, I mean,
no.
I've been watching 1,000-Pound Sisters, so my perception of large is skewed right now.
Here, does he? Come on.
No, he looks pretty, like a guy who's overweight, but not like crazy overweight.
Right. He doesn't look like he's struggling, right?
No, he can get around. He's not probably confined to a walker wheelchair situation.
There you go. Let's find out how exactly overweight Mr. Tansey is and how he can't exactly be killed because he's porky. A Florida death row inmate who was convicted of, and I say that being a fat guy, I can call him all the names I want. I'm a fat guy. A Florida death row inmate who was convicted of kidnapping and killing a woman in 2000 is asking the court to show him leniency regarding his execution scheduled for early next month because he is morbidly obese. So if he's morbidly obese, he's going to die of being fat anyways. Kill him.
nature along.
Do you see the irony here, Jess?
It's a little ironic.
It's a little ironic. In an appeal filed Monday, lawyers say that 48-year-old Michael Tansey is morbidly obese and suffers from severe chronic sciatica, as well as other conditions. He should want to die then. Sciatica is painful. I would think he'd probably be begging for lethal injection. I have a bunch of broken bones in my neck and back. There are days I feel like dying.
Yeah.
As well as other conditions such as hyperlipidemia, uncontrolled hypertension, and gastroesophageal reflux disease. He's got acid reflux.
That's a very fancy way to say it.
Yeah. Tansey believes, according to his attorneys, that his execution by lethal injection would violate the Constitution's 8th Amendment, which prevents cruel and unusual punishment. The existing protocols for lethal injection do not contemplate the execution of someone with obesity and uncontrolled medical conditions, like Mr. Tansey's. It doesn't say he's diabetic, by the way. He's managed to keep his sugars in check.
Yeah, impressive.
I'm impressed. They say here that his conditions are likely to complicate the lethal injection process. According to the filing, executing Mr. Tansey using the existing protocols is likely to cause serious illness and needless suffering. You're going to be dead in 10 minutes. I'll guarantee it. Much like Men's Warehouse, I'll guarantee it.
Right.
Right. You're not going to suffer much. His lawyers requested that the court stay his April 8th execution and bring the case back to circuit court for an evidentiary hearing. In a response filed on Wednesday, Attorney General of Florida, James Uthmeier, denied Tansey's appeal for relief. Uthmeier's office said Tansey has failed to show that the governor's warrant powers violate the 8th Amendment and that the state's lethal injection procedure has been in place since 2017. The filing also said that Tansey could have raised his meritless concerns about lethal injection earlier. Tansey has offered no legitimate reason for this court to depart from its long-standing precedents, the Attorney General's office said. Tansey's legal team responded Friday, urging the court to reverse the Attorney General's office's order denying their client relief. Tansey was convicted of carjacking. He wait a minute. He's too fat to die, but he was skinny enough to do a carjacking.
Maybe he's put on weight in prison.
That's damn good food, Jess, if you're putting on weight in prison. I'll tell you that. I'll go to that prison in a minute. What are they eating? Tansey was convicted of carjacking and later killing Janet Acosta in April of 2000. According to court documents, Tansey approached Acosta, who sat in her vehicle with the window rolled down, and proceeded to attack her after asking her for the time and a cigarette. So he smokes on top of it. He then drove off in Acosta's vehicle, taking her as a hostage while threatening her with a razor blade. And later, this pig sexually assaulted her and strangled her. Yeah, he needs to die.
Yeah, I don't really care if it's... I think he was cruel and unusual.
Yep.
The end.
Yeah. Who cares if he's too fat to die? He's going to die. Attorneys for Tansey did not immediately respond for a request for comments. Well, guess what, Mr. Tansey? You're going to die. That's all there's to it. You're going to die. You're going to die. I don't care if I sound callous about it. Guess what? We're all, in the end, when we die, it doesn't matter if we're fat, skinny, or what we look like. We're going to die. You're going to die.
True.
Yep. You got to pay the piper. All right. We go from lethal injection to what happens afterwards at the funeral. A fraudster was found guilty after a funeral fiasco. A man has been found guilty of fraud for duping a grieving family over funeral costs. Mark Kirby, and by the way, we're going across the pond for this to England. Mark Kirby from Station Road on Westcliff-on-Sea, Essex, took £2,600 from the victims to arrange the service, even though he had been banned from organizing funerals in the area. The congregation arrived at Basildon Crematorium on the 21st of February, 2020. to discover that no funeral would be taking place, according to Essex police. The 62-year-old Kirby, who has previous convictions for funeral fraud, was convicted by a jury on Wednesday at Chelmsford Crown Court. The victim's husband died at Southend Hospital in January 2020, and she paid Kirby for the funeral under the business Trinity Funeral Home, not realizing that this company was banned from using the facilities at Basildon Crematorium and Southend Cemetery. Kirby's attempts to book the crematorium had been refused, but the night before the funeral, he visited the family and presented them with an order of service, according to police. When the congregation turned up to find no service had been booked, Kirby tried to blame others and invited the family to his own funeral home. When the mourners arrived, they found it was a small 15 by 15 room, and much of the group had to wait outside. Essex police said the 20-minute service bore no relation to the man who had died. To add insult to injury, a limousine sent to pick up the family was inappropriately prepared to use for a child's birthday party. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to use this limo for a funeral service and it's decked out for a child's birthday party?
It's different.
It is. The family had to pay an extra £700 to Kirby for the body to be released into the care of a new funeral service as well. When the victim's husband was finally laid to rest on March 17th of 2020, no family were present due to the money that they had already paid out. PC Daniel Hart, who led the co-investigation, said that Kirby preyed on vulnerable, grieving victims and promised them tailored and respectful funeral services for their loved one, which he knew they would never be able to deliver. His actions were despicable, dishonest, and disrespectful, and I am glad today that those who were sadly engulfed in the web of lies finally have justice. His colleague, PC Lee Stevenson, rescheduled her retirement in order to bring the case to court and seek justice for the victims. A second man was charged in relation to these offenses, but was found not guilty of fraud by false representation. Kirby is due to be sentenced on April 25th. Kind of a disgusting story, that's for sure. Well, Jess, it's time now for our Not Safe for Work portion of the program. So what we do here is if you're at a funeral home, you want to step out. You don't want people to hear this part of the program, that's for sure. If you got kids around, earmuffs, kids, just put your hands over your ears for the next few stories. We don't want you to hear any of this. And if you're around your boss, you definitely want to put in your earbuds in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. You definitely don't want to hear or have the kids hear this next story because this next man is in Florida. He, of course, is a Florida man. He's 40 years old, and he dressed as Ronald McDonald for this next story.
Creepy already.
Creepy already. Let me get you a picture, an exact picture of what this guy looked like, Jess. There he is right there.
Oh,
yep.
Wow.
Yep, dressed as Ronald McDonald, and he was trespassing. Now,
is that him getting cuffed and stuff?
That is him getting cuffed and stuffed as Ronald McDonald.
I was trying to understand what was going on in the back.
You know, I'm always leery now of people who dress as Ronald McDonald because even McDonald's doesn't have clowns dressed as Ronald anymore.
That's because it's creepy.
Is it?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Ronald McDonald was always creepy. Look at the old ones from like the 80s. Oh,
you think so?
Oh, gosh. He looks like a child molester.
Really? See, and maybe it's a generational thing. I always used to think Ronald McDonald was cool.
I don't know. He always creeped me out.
See, I think it's a generational thing.
But aren't we like the same age? I think we're about the same age.
Almost. Yeah. I mean, I'm 29. So, you know, I think, yeah, we're pretty close.
I mean, everyone's perception is, skewed by life experiences. And I had a lot of trauma in my life. So I probably thought everyone was creepy.
Could be. Says the woman who's out there plucking out testicles left and right. But I'm just, I don't know. I don't know. That used to be a big thing to have Ronald at your McDonald's birthday party. That was
That's it.
Yeah.
I would have been mad at my parents.
If Ronald showed up, you'd have been like, where's the knife? Let me take out this.
You bastards.
Let me take out this clown's balls.
I'd have made the news. Some kid attacks Ronald and castrates him.
Clown at local McDonald's deballed by small child. It's There's a
Lord.
picture of you on top of Ronald hog tying him and deballing him. That would have been fun. The cop told 40-year-old Christopher Marlowe, after stuffing him into a squad car, "You look like a clown." Marlowe replied to the cop, "No shit, I'm a clown, stupid." Who was wearing a Ronald McDonald costume and red nose at the time.
Red nose and all. He went all out.
He did. He really did. Police confronted Marlowe Monday afternoon at a Palm Bay, Florida shopping center from which he had been previously trespassed. "Don't go anywhere, Chris," a cop announced. "You're not free to leave." When the cops tell you that, you're not going anywhere. Yeah.
No. And they know him by first name. You're in trouble.
Yeah. When they know you by name, you're done. As seen on body-worn police footage, Marlowe struggled with officers before he was knocked to the ground and handcuffed. One cop can be seen removing an orange replica gun from a pocket of Marlowe's yellow pants. Completing the clownish look, Marlowe wore a red and white striped shirt and yellow vest, which had a skull logo in place of the McDonald's arches. He was not wearing oversized red shoes, however. It's kind of a different look. A search of Marlowe's backpack turned up multiple other clown outfits and a pack of 10 red noses, because you never know when those other 9 are going to be plucked off your nose. So you gotta
have backup.
That's right. You got to have backup, Jess. Charged with trespassing, a misdemeanor, and resisting officers with violence, a felony, Marlowe was booked into the Brevard County Jail. He is locked up in lieu of $5,500 bond. Wow. And scheduled for arraignment on April 17th. Marlowe's rap sheet includes convictions for trespass, resisting arrest, and possession of drug paraphernalia. In January, he pleaded no contest to possession of methamphetamine in a glass pipe. Sentenced to 65 days in jail, Marlowe has been arrested in that case after causing a disturbance outside of a McDonald's restaurant. Either he wants to be Ronald McDonald, or let me show you a picture of this guy. How would you like that? How would you like that creepy Manson-like clown dancing around in a yellow and red outfit for you?
All of my nightmares realized in one screenshot.
Yeah.
It's not just the way he looks. It's not the clearly dirty, weird hair, the mouth open.
That's
everything
him.
About that.
That's him getting cuffed and stuffed, right? And then here's him in the booking photo right here, Jess, kind of going, "Jess, I'd like to dance for you."
That is nightmare fuel.
"Jess, would you like to drink my orange Kool-Aid?" "Jess, let me get you a cheeseburger."
That is exactly what he sounds like, Tim. You're nailing it.
"Jess. Jess, would you like to sit on my lap and make a birthday wish?" "Jess."
No.
No. "I will give you material for a best-selling book, Jess. I call it my manifesto." "Jess."
Lord. Oh, man.
"I call it the Marlowe's Book of Miracles." Yeah. What do you think? Did I channel him pretty much there?
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
It's like he was there.
It's like he was almost, you're almost in his lap right there, right?
Mm.
Yeah. I think I got him there. I think I was in character.
You nailed it.
Yeah. Well, I don't
want alter ego or something. You nailed it a little too good, Tim.
Did I kind of? Yeah. It's like I jumped in his skin and jumped out, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Thinking about taking it to Broadway, Jess. Thinking about it. Yeah.
I would pay for that show.
Would you?
Yeah.
Just me playing some sort of weird schizo. What was that?
Do I have to be in it, sitting on stage looking mortified?
Yeah. If you could, that'd be great. Yeah. If you want to star in it, that'd be. Okay. I do better with you as a co-star, I think.
It's always more fun doing things with a partner.
That's right. What was that movie with Woody Harrelson where he played the psycho?
Which one?
Which one? Kingpin. That was it. No,
I loved that one.
I'm kidding. No, it's not that one. Just joking.
Him and his landlady.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
classic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that one. Kingpin, that's it. People are going to be like, that's not it.
Which one was it? Was it one where he was like a killer?
Yeah.
Trying to think of it. I think I can see it in my head.
People are screaming at their listening devices right now. It's me!
You idiot!
You idiot! It's only his best role ever. I'm just going to let it hang. I just want the emails. I just want people to email me.
You just want fan mail that's not
That's
fan.
right. I just want people to tell me what an idiot I am.
Angry fan mail.
Yeah. How are you so stupid? How do you not know? It's not Kingpin. It is. It's Kingpin.
It's always Kingpin.
Yeah, it's always Kingpin. Kingpin's always the answer. Right? That's always the answer. I'll just leave it at that and let people stew. Our next story has to do with a New Jersey. Speaking of movies, we're going to talk about Animal House. Greatest movie Dan Aykroyd ever did. I'm just seeing how people are going to be like, no, it wasn't Aykroyd. A New Jersey police chief is accused of turning a department into Animal House. I've never seen anything like this, said attorney Patrick Toscano, who represents 5 officers who intend to sue North Bergen Police Chief Robert Farley. Wonder if he's related to Chris Farley. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? I mean, just saying, that would be amazing. A New Jersey police chief who's been accused by 5 of his officers of turning the department into an animal house rife with harassment against his employees, including in... Wow. Really? Including incidents of him defecating on the office floor, spiking the office coffee pot with Adderall and Viagra, and jabbing one officer in the penis with a hypodermic needle. This guy's been busy, Jess.
Oh my gosh.
Did I get you with that
I
one?
can't laugh anymore. I'm starting to have asthma attacks over here. You're killing me today.
I just
Stabbing him in the penis?
Yeah.
A needle?
Yeah. That's not Animal House. That's like Freddy Krueger torture shit. I mean, that's
next level.
We've gone past fun at that point, don't you think? I mean, that's not like innocent pranks.
Yeah, Animal House was just a bunch of horny, frat boys.
Yeah.
This is like...
No, that's... And what do you get out of spiking the coffee pot with Adderall and Viagra? I mean, that's just... At that point, it's just a speed trip with a hard dick. I mean, that's not... There's nothing fun about that.
It's a heart attack waiting to happen.
That is. I mean, you're speeding up the heart so much, it's not fun anymore, right? I mean, you're not having fun at that point. None of this is fun. Somebody shitting on the office floor. What fun is that? There's no fun there.
No, nasty.
We're not having... That's not Animal House. This is Crazy Train territory is what it is. Yeah.
This is Animal House in an asylum.
Right. Chief Robert Farley, a veteran of the North Bergen Police Department, is also accused of harassing officers outside the office by sending packages containing sex toys and gay pride flags to their homes. This guy. As well as retaliating against them by denying promotions and assigning officers to the night shift, according to notices to sue that have the officers submitted to the township of North Bergen. To file a lawsuit in New Jersey, a person must first submit a notice indicating their intent to sue. So they have to make themselves known. So they're like, Officer Farley, I'm about to sue you. Don't take it personally and stab me in the dick with a hypodermic needle. I'd appreciate it if you don't do that. Farley has fostered a workplace environment characterized by inappropriate behavior and so-called practical jokes that are demeaning, demoralizing, and targeted, says one of the accusing officers, Lieutenant Alex Guzman. These actions not only fail to meet the standards of professional conduct, but also appear intended to humiliate me and other victims, he said as he held his private area. Just saying. The other officers who have filed notices to sue are Michael F. Darren, a retired North Bergen police detective who worked for Farley in an administrative role. His son, Detective Michael A. Darren, he can't leave his own son alone? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's the son of the other guy.
Oh, that's the other guy.
Okay. Oh, God. I thought maybe he was picking on his own son. And officers Rashid Siam and Christopher Bowen. They're not talking now because they fear retaliation, their attorney Patrick Toscano told NBC News. Toscano also asked the New Jersey State Attorney General's office in a letter on Tuesday to immediately take over the day-to-day operations of the North Bergen Police Department. Can you imagine that? The Attorney General having to take over the police department?
Man, you know you've run amok when that happens.
Toscano said, I represented thousands of police officers over the years. I've never seen anything like this. There's just no other way of saying it. Wow.
Yeah, just wow.
That's harsh. And meanwhile, this guy just goes, whoops, my bad.
Oops.
I guess I can stop. I didn't know you guys didn't take it for a joke. It's just jokes, guys. It's just jokes. I mean, you know, the way you stop the bleeding to your dick is with a tourniquet. God. Right? I mean, you know that growing up on the farm, right, Jess?
Yeah. I just know how to make things bleed. I don't know how to stop the bleeding.
You don't know how to stop the bleeding? You just get them bleeding? You don't know how to make it stop? All right. That's my area. Getting it to stop.
The bleeding stops eventually, my dad says. So...
Why has he been deballed at any particular point and needed to stop the bleeding? God, your poor dad. Anywho. All right. You might have heard of the story. I'm trying to remember if we talked about the story a couple weeks ago. It's an unusual one. Have you heard of the fake to catch a predator TikTok plot?
No.
Okay. We'll talk about it here briefly. We're almost near the end of the show here. Another palate cleanser is an interesting one. Students accused in an alleged fake to catch a predator TikTok plot that led to the attack on a man want their charges dropped. So you remember the show To Catch a Predator? You'd have Chris Hansen sitting there and saying, I'm wondering why you showed up here with a pack of condoms and a whole gallon bucket of lube. Did you think you were meeting a 15-year-old? Right? And then Chris Hansen himself actually ended up getting busted, if you remember right.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Chris Hansen had a fall from grace because he was having an affair with somebody.
Oh, but they weren't like 14.
No. It wasn't a 14-year-old or anything like that. But he had a little fall from grace, and now I think he's back. I think he's actually back doing like a version of To Catch a Predator. So
okay.
Yeah. The Massachusetts college students accused of hatching a plot to frame a man and label him a predator, which resulted in his assault, say the criminal charges against them should be dropped. The Assumption University students allegedly lured a 22-year-old man to the campus, falsely accused him of seeking sex with an underage girl, and then chased him down and beat him while recording the attack as part of a so-called To Catch a Predator trend on TikTok. Yes, that's a trend on TikTok. The students, all teens, are facing felony kidnapping and conspiracy charges. Now the students, 18-year-old Isabella Trudeau, 18-year-old Kevin Carroll, 18-year-old Joaquin Smith, 19-year-old Easton Randall, and 18-year-old Kelsey Brainerd have all asked the judge overseeing the case to drop at least some of those charges against them. That according to the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. Leonardo Angiulio, who's a lawyer for one of the students, reportedly described the incident as a bunch of kids making bad decisions, but it's not something that warranted serious charges. Defense attorneys also said the video that was taken by students to share on social media not only misrepresents what happened, it also shows that the man's movements was not restricted as he ran away. Attorneys also attacked the statement of facts written by police, saying that it relied on the students' accounts even as officers openly questioned the truth of what they were saying. At one point, Ann Giulio argued that the students were simply being students. I don't know, if you go to that point where you're planning out catching a predator, that's not students being students.
I don't think so.
That's called entrapment. They decided they wanted to confront a person they disagreed with, he said, according to the Telegram and Gazette. Isn't that what college is all about? No, college is all about studying and getting your degree and maybe having a little bit of fun, maybe a couple of
trying a keg stand or two.
There you go. Trying a keg stand or two, maybe, going to a football game. That's college. The judge, Central District Court Judge Michael Allard Maddouse, reportedly replied that it may have been a bridge too far. I think I agree with the judge. I think they might have gone too far. Allard Maddouse reportedly did not indicate how he intended to rule. Police say that the group used the dating app Tinder to lure the victim to campus, trying to simulate the TikTok fad of luring a sexual predator to a location and subsequently physically assaulting him or calling the police, according to local CBS affiliate WBZ. They lured the man, who was on active duty in the military, to a lounge area in the college's alumni hall, where alleged participants then emerged from secreted locations, grabbed the man, and accused him of being a predator. The victim told the police the group came from out of nowhere and started calling him a pedophile and saying that he liked having sex with 17-year-old girls, that according to a police report. He managed to break free, but the group of 25 or more chased and attacked him. He got to his car and drove away and called the police. A few minutes later, you see the group coming back in, laughing and high-fiving with each other, that according to Mass Live. Police said one of the female defendants reported that a creepy guy came to campus looking to meet an underage girl, that according to court documents. Police said this allegation was bogus. Her victimization was fraudulently reported to mislead police in believing that a sexual predator was on campus to conceal that the subject was lured to campus to be caught as a sexual predator by a group of students lacking legal authority to do so, WBZ reported. The police investigation reportedly turned up no evidence that the man was seeking underage sex. The Worcester Telegram and Gazette reported that one of the defendants told cops it was like the Chris Hansen videos where you catch a predator and either call police or kick their ass, but that this got out of hand and went bad. The reference to the Chris Hansen videos is a nod to the reality TV series featuring the show's host, Hansen confronting men arriving at a house to have sex with a minor and get arrested. The victim told cops that he was in town for his grandmother's funeral and went on Tinder to be around people that were happy. One of the female defendants invited him to campus to try and hook up, the Boston Globe reported. A university spokesperson said in a statement to the Worcester Telegram and Gazette that the allegations are abhorrent and antithetical to Assumption University's mission and values. I don't know, Jess, it's a messy situation all the way around.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Our next couple of stories are outrageous. I'll just tell you that. Probably some of the most outrageous stories we've had on our Not Safe for Work section. Are you ready for this? Are you buckled in?
I'm ready. I'm buckled in.
All right.
Lay it on me.
Here we go. Well, I wouldn't say lay it on you because that's literally what this next story is about.
Oh, no.
An Arab CEO is suing American Airlines after a crew ignored a passenger who masturbated beside her.
No.
You ever had that happen on a flight next to you?
Mm-mm. Nope.
Well, get ready for this, Jess. We're taking it to a whole new level.
Oh, that's so gross. Oh,
I'll tell you.
You're already too close to each other.
Right? I mean, there's very little space on an airplane. An Arab American fashion CEO has filed a lawsuit against American Airlines after allegedly being forced to endure a harrowing in-flight ordeal in which a male passenger masturbated beside her for nearly an hour.
What?
It gets worse, Jess. This story will make your skin crawl, especially the way American Airlines responded to it. While crew members allegedly failed to intervene. Listen to how they handled this. Neil El Sharif, a prominent New York-based businesswoman and founder of luxury vegan leather brand Mela, was traveling in premium economy on a transatlantic flight from JFK to Milan on May 27th of 2024, when she claimed she was subjected to the vile act. Now, according to the New York Post, the airline failed to take appropriate action when she reported the incident, instead of offering to relocate her to economy. Now, keep in mind, she's in premium economy. I wouldn't want to go back to economy either. I would take the guy and put him back in economy.
Right. Why should she have to move? Because he's disgusting.
Right. And it's a long flight. I would rather keep my premium economy seat too.
Isn't masturbating in public illegal?
Yes. So he should have been detained, arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Citizen's arrest.
Right. The 37-year-old El Sharif, who is of Arab descent and has been recognized as one of Forbes' 30 under 30, pretty prominent person, alleges that the male passenger, referred to as John Doe in court filings, began acting inappropriately after consuming several glasses of champagne. She noticed him grabbing his groin area and rubbing his genitals through his trousers shortly after the cabin lights dimmed.
Ew.
Little creepy. The fashion entrepreneur, who has led brand portfolios worth up to 40 million pounds or $50 million, said she froze in her seat and began to panic, according to legal documents filed in Brooklyn federal court. Her complaint states that the man continued to masturbate for approximately 60 minutes without a single crew member walking through the premium economy section. 60 minutes.
I think you'd hurt yourself after a while.
You think you'd chafe a little. I'm just saying, especially over the top.
Yeah, rubbing it raw. Like, come on. Ew.
Here's the flight crew's response, Jess, which is a little disturbing. Okay? After the man finally ceased, El Sharif left her seat and approached a flight attendant, only to be met with indifference. The staff member allegedly told her, "There's nothing really I can do," and proposed she move to a seat in economy class. Why does she have to move?
Wow, that's crazy.
Even more disturbingly, the flight attendant is said to have remarked, "Men just do stuff like that," adding that her own husband, adding that her own husband also engaged in such behavior. A statement which, according to the suit, deeply shocked and offended El Sharif. The airline staff allegedly failed to speak to the man in question or file a report about the sexual misconduct. They didn't even approach the guy.
Wow.
I've never been on a flight where, one, I've ever seen anything like that happen, or two, if something like that did happen, that guy wouldn't have been, at least, if not corralled by a couple of people on the flight, corralled by flight of employees and escorted back and something be done about it.
Yeah. I feel bad for her because she clearly didn't know how to react. She just kind of froze.
Right.
And wasn't comfortable telling them to stop. I mean, I've been like, excuse me.
Right. Well, the very least that should have happened. American Airlines employees, a male employee, whether it be the captain or a male assistant, should have come back, and it should have been more than one. It should have been more than one employee. Should have come back and warned him and said, "Listen, not acceptable. We're going to put you in the back of the plane or an empty seat in the back of the plane. And if there's a ranger on the plane," which sometimes there are rangers that ride on the plane, he should have been escorted the rest of the way to Milan. And then when they got off in Milan, he should have been arrested. That should have been the way that the flight ended for him. But to do nothing.
Just say, oh, it's no big deal. My husband does that sort of thing all the time.
Oh, my husband does it all the time. Yeah. He just,
What man are you married to?
yeah, he just flogs a dolphin on public flights all the time. Not a big deal. Yeah. We're just like, whoops, bring a tarp. He might, get a little goo on you.
Oy.
Jeez. The lawsuit claims the crew's response made El Sharif feel as though she was expected to endure such grotesque misconduct, perpetuating the dangerous notion that women should tolerate male predation as part of everyday life. El Sharif contends that her ethnicity played a role in the dismissive treatment she received because she is an Arab woman. The flight attendant did not treat her report of John Doe masturbating next to her as a sexual assault. The complaint reads, she is now suing American Airlines for negligence, discrimination, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The lawsuit against American Airlines comes amid broader scrutiny of the airline's handling of in-flight misconduct. Only days earlier, a 55-year-old man named Sharian Abraham was arrested and charged with abusive sexual misconduct after allegedly groping a woman during a flight to Seattle. Per reports from the New York Post, Abraham had faced 2 prior accusations of groping female passengers in 2023 and 2024. The recurring nature of these incidents raises significant concerns about the airline's in-flight safety protocols, passenger protections, and staff training in handling cases of sexual misconduct. An American Airlines spokesperson responded to the allegations with a brief statement. Here comes bullshit. American strives to provide a positive experience to everyone who travels with us. We are reviewing the allegations of the complaint. Bullshit. Neil El Sharif is no stranger to the spotlight. According to her LinkedIn profile, she has held executive roles in fashion, manufacturing, and sustainability, overseeing production and strategy for global retail giants, including Walmart and Nordstrom. She holds a BFA in fashion design and business entrepreneurship and completed executive education at Harvard Business School. She also serves as a mentor for emerging fashion startups and has received numerous accolades, including Marie Claire's Sustainability Award. Despite her professional accolades, El Sharif's experience on the flight has left lasting emotional scars. Her legal team argues that American Airlines' failure to act not only put her in harm's way, but also reinforced the notion that women, particularly women of color, must tolerate abuse in silence. The case is ongoing, and El Sharif is seeking damages in excess of $1 million. Her ordeal adds to mounting public pressure for airlines to adopt stricter procedures when addressing sexual misconduct in the skies and to ensure that all passengers, regardless of gender or ethnicity, feel safe at 35,000 feet. I'll tell you this much. I think we can say it's isolated to just a few airlines. Yeah, I don't think it's all airlines. I think it's just a few airlines that are egregiously horrible.
Right.
And I think it's let's just say the one named in the story is egregiously horrible. We
do talk about them a little too often, I think.
Yeah, and this particular one has been egregiously horrible in the past. And even though they say, oh no, we make sure that we were up to date on our standards and blah 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 blah, it's a lot of lip service.
Right.
Yeah. So I quit flying them a long time ago.
Don't find that one either.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. Well, from terror in the skies to terror 6 feet under, Jess.
Oh, no.
We're going to talk about the 6 Feet Deep Club, which I bet you didn't know was a thing.
It was like a submarine situation?
No, it's worse. A couple was caught having sex on a grave in a historic local cemetery.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing.
Get a room.
Right? I mean, they make cheap motel rooms. I don't know why a grave would be a thing.
Yeah.
Is that a kink?
Must be.
I don't know. A man and a woman ran afoul of the law when they were caught having sex on a grave in a local cemetery, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Wow. Go big or go home.
I guess, right? Girl, we're going to do it on Lincoln's head, or Lincoln's grave, because he was shot in the head and I'm going to shoot you right. No, I'm just kidding.
Ew.
Kidding. A trooper with a canine stopped to give the dog a rest break at about 4 p.m. Thursday near the Wild Cow Prairie Cemetery off Interstate 75 near Webster in Sumter County, according to an arrest report from the Florida Highway Patrol. Jess, yes, we're going back to Florida. Because if this were going to happen anywhere, by God, it's going to happen in Florida.
It has to be in 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the middle of the day, broad daylight.
Well, you know, it gets darker earlier now.
Not that early.
Not that early, no. Well, you know, in Florida, anytime's a good time to do some stripping on a grave, I guess. The trooper spotted a white Nissan parked in the front of a cemetery with the windows down and no one in the immediate area. So, of course, the trooper is wondering what's going on. Other troopers who were also present observed a white male and female at the rear of the cemetery engaged in sexual activity on top of unknown grave number 43. The troopers approached the couple who went back to their vehicle to obtain clothing. Yeah, they left it back at the vehicle, Jess.
That is brazen.
Yeah, it is. The search of their vehicle turned up a purse, which belonged to the woman, identified as 46-year-old Stephanie Wegman of Webster. Yeah, she wasn't a spring chicken.
Old enough to know better.
That's right. And here's a shock. She was on drugs. The purse contained 2 pill bottles. One held 13 alprazolam pills, and the other contained 20 oxycodone pills. Old Steph has a prior criminal history and did not have a prescription for the pills. There's a shock. She was arrested on several drug charges and booked without bond at the Sumter County Detention Center. Let me show you what our spring chicken looks like here. That's what she looks like in her booking photo.
Wow.
Yeah.
She looks very mad.
Doesn't she look like the dead a little bit? Maybe
they interrupted her good time. She is angry.
Maybe she was just heading back to her coffin. Maybe we got it all wrong. Maybe
she definitely looks like someone who might be on some drugs.
Yeah. The man who had suffered a leg injury was transported to Dade City Hospital. Yes, he was injured in the process of doing it at the coffin.
Wow.
Yeah. The report indicated a warrant will be sought for his arrest. Among those buried at the Wild Cow Prairie Cemetery, Jess, are at least 8 veterans and 19th century county commissioners James Weeks and Charles Littleberry Branch. Residents of Pemberton Ferry, along with the, I don't know if I can pronounce the name of this river, with that Chochi River?
Nailed it.
Thanks. We're also buried there. Pemberton Ferry is now a ghost town that disappeared in the 1930s. The area is on a well-traveled 19th century stagecoach route linking Adamsville with Brooksville in Citrus County. Former slaves are also believed to have been buried in the cemetery, which has been neglected for years, but was recently restored thanks to volunteer efforts. And of course, for crackheads and zoners, it's a great place to fuck. So there you go.
It sounds kind of like a prostitution situation too, not like they're out on a date.
You think?
I don't know.
I think you nailed it. I mean, not like nailed it, but I think you nailed it. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, if you're there in the cemetery, shtupping, you might get crabs.
Oh.
But we're going to talk about, for our palate cleanser, different kind of crabs.
Oh, good.
Yes. A group faces charges after illegal crabbing bust in Washington, Jess. That's our palate cleanser, or one of our palate cleansers for today. We have 2 of them. So, yeah, palate cleanser. Let me show you a picture of the little guys right here. See?
Okay.
Crabs.
Aww.
Aw, crabs. And the good
kind of disgusting, but cute.
Yeah, the good kind of crabs. We go to Clinton, Washington, where a group of people have landed in hot water, get it, after they were caught illegally crabbing in Washington state. According to Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, The group was going back to their vehicle after crabbing from the Clinton fishing pier, where they were met by Officer Wiedert. The officer found that they had 2 coolers filled with 84 Dungeness and Red Rock crab. The officer filed criminal charges for first-degree over the limit. That's an actual charge. Possession of female Dungeness crab, undersized Dungeness crab, no license, and closed season. WDFW police said one person in the group actually had a shellfish license. And not a selfish license, but a shellfish license. So there you go. Our other story, Jess, is a complete double entendre, just like the crab one. We're going to go from crabs to glory holes. There you go.
Glory hole.
Yes. See, we're just doing the not safe for work thing, but we're just continuing it. That's right, Jess. We're going to talk about a giant glory hole. But it's on Lake Berryessa. Finally, that giant glory hole, which had had a 5-year dry spell, is finally wet.
Oh, gosh.
That's what we're talking about today. Thank God that giant dry glory hole over at Lake Berryessa has finally gotten wet. Oh, we're so relieved. And scientists are too, Jess. Because you can't have a dry glory hole. You want that sucker as wet as can be. Because you know what happens when that glory hole gets dry.
I don't know.
Well, we're about to find out. Let's read for a little bit here. They say if you stare into the abyss stares back at you. Well, visitors to Napa County, California can put that theory to the test. Because good news, Lake Berryessa's glory hole is back in action. That's what it says in the story. It's a glory hole. That's the Morning Glory Spillway, to be exact. A massive swirling drain at Monticello Dam, or Monticello, as they put it. I'm sure it's Monticello to us Minnesotans. Designed to prevent flooding when Lake Berryessa's water levels exceed 134 meters or 440 feet. When that happens, the overflow spills into the drain, creating a sloshing vortex that looks very cool when viewed from above. So why is it called a glory hole? Well, according to Melissa Vigneault, who told ABC 10, she says, my guess is because there's a big hole, and so people have chosen to utilize other terms. But the official term is the Morning Glory Spillway. It's not a glory hole. It's the Morning Glory Spillway, Jess. Yeah.
That's probably better. You should use its full name.
Yeah, not glory hole. Glory hole just is disgusting, but hey, we like it anyways. Vigneault is a supervisor with the Solano Project, a federally funded program with the Bureau of Reclamation that supplies water for human use via Monticello Dam or Monticello Dam. Dams need emergency spillways to handle excess water, and in that case, the glory hole functions like an overflow drain in a kitchen sink, just on a massive scale. According to the LA Times, the glory hole has only been used 25 times in its 70-year history, so it's almost virgin territory. It had been sitting dry and unused for years, but at the start of 2025, a slew of atmospheric rivers brought a large amount of rainfall to the region. So at last, the glory hole is back in action, Jess, and it's wetter than ever.
It looks cool. I Googled it.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah, see? As Lake Berryessa News reports, the hole first spilled on February 4th and saw the most action on, of all days, Valentine's Day. Yeah, you know.
Oh, well, naturally.
When the water levels rose to 135.02 meters or 442.97 feet. We've enjoyed 46 glory hole days this year, and as of March 22nd, the levels had once again risen to 441 feet following a lot of rain in the last few days. So that glory hole is getting worn out over there in California.
Do you think they giggle every time they talk about it?
I think they do, yeah. Yeah, most definitely. So we ended today on a good note with a wet glory hole.
Yeah. Gotta love a wet glory hole. I don't know.
We started the day talking about a rapist getting his nuts cut off, and we end with a glory hole. I mean, you gotta love today's episode.
Yeah, it's a really weird kind of sandwich.
It really is.
But I'm here for it, Tim.
I appreciate that, Jess, and I appreciate you. So with that, tell us what's going on in your world over at jessicafreeberg.com.
Well, you guys, you can just grab one of my books and read a book and leave a review for it if you would be so kind. If you like it, if you don't like it, don't leave a review. I don't like bad reviews; they make me sad.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, we don't want to make Jess sad. And if you'd like
we don't get a lot of those.
Yeah, you do. You do. You don't. You do. No.
No,
I was gonna
not
say.
usually.
Okay, good.
No.
Good. I was gonna say. No, we have to find those people and hurt them. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that out loud.
We're very violent today, Tim.
I know. I'm very angry today. I don't know what that is. It's all welling up inside me. I should seek therapy probably. If people want autograph copies of your books.
Yeah, you can send me a message if you want an autograph copy. I'm happy to facilitate that for you. I just sent a couple out the other day, and I will have some copies here that I can sign and send, and I'll just have you pay me via PayPal or, well, not PayPal, probably Venmo. I don't really do PayPal, but
there you go. All right.
One way or another, you can pay for it that way. But
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Again, the other book that was on the program today, The DUMOND Affair, is written by D.R. Bartlette. It's The DUMOND Affair, How Lies and Politics Freed a Killer. It's available by Wild Blue Press. We have a link in the description of the program, so you can check into that book as well. Interesting book, Jess. Holy cow.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. It ties everything in from Wayne Dumond and his rape of Ashley Stevens to how that ties into Governor Clinton, to his rise to president, to how Governor Huckabee came up through the system. And exactly, there's a lot of stuff there, but, and how a corrupt cop actually fueled some of the mistruths about the Clintons.
Fascinating.
It's interesting. It's a very interesting book. So, but I encourage people to read it. Doesn't matter what side of the political fence you're on. It's a very interesting book. Very interesting book indeed. We have an interesting week ahead. We do. We got Supernatural news.
Some good stuff coming.
Supernatural news tomorrow. Some good stories for tomorrow for Supernatural news. And then we're going to end the week with some supernatural stories.
Yay!
Both, and they're true stories at that. We have a first-time guest to the show who has a few books out there of true stories, true paranormal stories, and I think it's going to be a really good episode. So
that sounds fun.
Yeah. So excellent week this week. I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks. We've got some really, really good paranormal stuff coming up the next couple of weeks. So, yeah. Fired up. So, yeah, that's how it shakes out here, Jess, for this week. So, again, folks, I've had some suggestions for guests, and I appreciate it. Keep them coming. I will tell you this. I had a suggestion for Zach Baggins. I will tell you this. I did reach out to try and get the Ghost Adventures guys before the new season. And I was told in no uncertain terms that although they would like to come on, there's not an availability before the new season, but it's potentially maybe after the season. So there's some potential that they might come on after. There's just too much going on right now, and
yeah,
with everything going on with Aaron right now, it's not a possibility. So, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, but maybe after the season's over, there's a possibility that we might be able to have someone on from Ghost Adventures. So, but yeah, so I know I had one or two people ask me about potentially having someone on from Ghost Adventures this season. So, so yeah, I've already looked into it, but that's where that's it. So this week, big week, Jess. I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much for being on today. And then tomorrow, Mally Fox, Supernatural News. So big week. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for being part of the show, listening to the show, listening to and watching, more importantly, the videos on YouTube. If you haven't found us on YouTube yet, check out the videos. The original Darkness Radio on YouTube. If you're not finding the videos on YouTube, it's real simple. Go to darknessradioshow.com. You'll see the videos attached to the episode that you want to see. So just go to that episode. You'll see both the video and audio of that particular episode attached to that episode. So that's the easiest way to find both video and audio. The Apple app, if you haven't updated yet for iOS 18, it's real simple. Go to the Apple Store. Either update or download the Darkness Radio app if you're looking for, if you have an Apple device, if you're looking for a place to get your podcasts. That's the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Podchaser, wherever you get your podcasts, by all means, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts, please get us there. And check out the Darkness Radio store at darknessradioshow.com. Our executive producer for today's program is Troy Palmer. Troy, thank you for everything you do. And we will see you tomorrow for Supernatural News with Mally Fox. For Jessica Freeberg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us today for True Crime Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.